It's just the nature of the species and where they die. Now, only place you'd find one of them is in limestone caves or a porcupine. That's how we have Gigantopithecus blacki teeth and jawbones. Gigantopithecus blacki was the largest primate ape to ever exist, thought to go extinct around 100,000 years ago in China, in southern Asia, and
Don't we know of it just from a tooth?
yeah, only like we have hundreds of teeth and a good amount of jawbones, and from that we've reconstructed the entire skeleton, and we've come to the conclusion that they were most likely mainly bipedal, with the ability to go and drop down on all fours a lot, just from the teeth and jawbones alone. And the only reason why we have them is because porcupines have dragged them into limestone caves. Anyway, Gigantopithecus, they're not thought to exist north of the Yellow River, and the reason why is because porcupine don't exist north of the Yellow River.
So yeah, on with the Gigantopithecus. They got it from the bones, from the teeth.
Teeth and jawbones and limestone caves, basically,
Mhm.
where they can, be preserved for a very long
Yeah.
time because it's so basic in there. There's acidity, there's alkaline, and but scientists don't think they really exist north of the Yellow River. Well, if you look at a distribution map of porcupines, they never existed north of the Yellow River. So there's no porcupines dragging them to limestone caves. So the prevailing hypothesis with the ancestry of Sasquatch is that either it's Gigantopithecus blacki that got a little bit smaller over time or stayed the same and went over Bering Land Bridge into North America, or they're palanthropines, which is a genus of hominin species. There's early hominins, there's Australopithecines, and there's Homo genus. In the Australopithecines, there's gracile ones and more robust ones. More robust ones are like their own genus, basically, palanthropines. And and they have a lot. So basically, after the Patterson-Giller film came out, this one really open-minded scientist wrote a book about Sasquatch. His name's Dr. John Napier. And his conclusion that Sasquatch is real purely based off the footprint evidence alone and the anatomies and the consistencies and all the features. They're absolutely real based off the footprint evidence alone. But when it came to the Patterson-Gimlin film, he thought it was a hoax. And this is sort of paraphrasing a little bit, but he said, from the waist up, she looks like a chimpanzee, and from the waist down, she looks like a human. And it was inconceivable to him to think that such a hybrid of structure could even exist in nature. Right? He died, he published the book, right? And then a few years later, Lucy's postcranial skeleton, Australopithecus afarensis, was discovered, and the popular press is quoting the scientist saying, isn't it interesting? From the waist up, she looks like a chimpanzee. From the waist down, she looks like a human. 2.2 million years old, same hybrid of structure that he said he couldn't even think to exist in nature. We had a living specimen before the most historic human ancestor skeleton was ever discovered, Lucy. So that's really interesting. What if he didn't publish that book a few more years?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And you said people have they found carcasses that have been looked at by scientists and they've been like, this was eaten by some humanoid thing.
Oh, yeah. Other animals, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Like a deer that got killed by an animal, and they're like, "This is not coyote."
Yeah, it was either human or Sasquatch. There are cases where there are carcasses found. There's no way it's anything else other than a human or a Sasquatch. A lot of times bone caches are found of all these different bones: mountain lions, coyotes, cows, horses, deer, all in the same freaking pile.
Like predators included.
Yeah, on a mountain.
What the fuck?
On a fucking mountain. At the base of the mountain, there's a farm where the dude's horses and freaking cows gone missing. How heavy are those freaking things to get all the way up there on that hill?
Mm-hmm. And these are bones that are bigger, that are too big for a bird to take them, like a fucking cow femur, or God forbid if they're skulls,
Yeah, people hypothesize about thunderbirds and pterodactyls never went extinct, and
I've heard that. There's people who theorize that there's some sort of pterodactyl type thing in Papua New Guinea, and there's been sightings of like a flying lizard thing, like the size of an eagle, and I've seen pictures of it that look, it fucking looks like a damn pterodactyl. But you never know what's a fucking hoax, you know.
Yeah.
In the cryptid world, there's so much bullshit, you know. But Bigfoot, man,
Yeah,
I just
man.
saw the castings with my own eyes. I held them in my own hand,
I
bro.
also got my not business card, but my personal card here, and it's got like my name and contact stuff in there.
Put that on the big camera.
And then flip it around is the main part. It's my favorite art of all time of Sasquatches. You probably can't see. Oh yeah, right there. Yeah. And the other side is referencing the relic hominid inquiry hosted by Idaho State University, with peer-reviewed literature on Sasquatches in the scholarly journal about relic hominids all over the world. The truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, that's my friend Jessica.
Mm.
She actually lived in Humboldt.
Really?
I used to stay with her in Humboldt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's talked to locals and heard the stories as well. It's hard to live out there for a number of years and not come across at least somebody who has at least known somebody.
Oh yeah, yeah. Pacific Northwest. Talked to 5 people. One of those people are gonna tell you they've either seen one, had an experience, or knows someone who's seen one.
Yeah.
Literally, it's part of the culture. Everybody knows about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. While the Native American tribes think it's silly that we even question their existence.
Have you heard any of the stories on YouTube of like military, like special forces battalions going in to fight the fucking Bigfoots?
So with the Australian Yowie, there was one particular individual in Australia, and I'm getting this from the Bigfoot Beyond Cliff and Bobo. One of the guests that they had on there actually was chased by this individual, like while he was going on a nighttime run or something. Chased, almost killed by this thing. A worker actually went missing. A worker went missing, was killed. He was almost killed by this thing. They brought in the Australian SAS, Special Forces, he says, and they set a trap for this thing. They put, I think they had some person there as like bait to try and draw this thing in, and they had a claymore set up and flashbangs with like a freaking trip wire, and this thing came in and they were just shooting at this thing and they killed it, and there were blood everywhere and bullets everywhere, and they removed, the Australian government removed the Yowie, and then they completely sanitized the entire site, and there were all that's left is like bullet holes in trees or something like that.
They're like, hide all the DNA.
Yeah, destroyed it.
Dude, that's what I can't get past that like we got underground facilities and they gotta have cloning down there, bro. They gotta.
Yeah.
Like if they're gonna be doing unethical cloning somewhere, that's where they do it. You know? And if genetic material exists of a creature that can be spliced with humans, that's like mega strong and comparably intelligent with heightened senses.
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be such an asset to the military. Like I feel like that would be like oh, you have it, we're taking that. I can't get past that thought, man.
Yeah.
The conspiracy theorist in me is just like if you had Bigfoot footprints,
and they're so closely related to humans, the genetic compatibility, the ability to give.
So I'm saying like they could be bred with humans. They wouldn't even have to slice them. They could be bred.
Yeah.
You know?
They're so close.
Yeah, and if that's the case, like they can do that in an embryo. You know, they could just in fertilization.
And if they're that close, that goes to show that they're probably not Gigantopithecus. They're probably something like a Paranthropine that's gone north every time they've gotten bigger. Like a really closely human-like hominin species instead of the biggest ape to ever exist. Which, covered in hair, 13-foot tall, walked on 2 legs. Bigfoots were absolutely real. No scientist will ever question that. We know that these animals were real. It's just a matter of how long ago did they go extinct, or are they extant? And extant is the opposite of extinct.
Yeah, they kept
just like relict, relict hominoid, thought to go extinct. Relict populations of them have persisted into present day.
Do you know of any stories of anyone claiming to have Bigfoot evidence and then just up and disappearing? Like the government got them?
There's a lot of Men in Black stories out there. That's why if I ever come across a type specimen, or if I ever kill and shoot one, I'm cutting a finger off, hiding it in my boot or somewhere, and I'm not telling another living soul where that is. And then I'm trying to, I would probably chop off the head or like a leg or like an arm, I don't know about getting the whole thing out of there, but throwing the back of my truck, driving straight to Idaho State University, Doctor of Belgium. I don't trust another living soul. People come upon living or type specimens like dead ones. I think a few times. I don't think it's like they've never come across a type specimen or they've never shot and killed one. I think there's a lot of convincing stories out there of people shooting them. Another individual member of the species comes and helps everyone escape, or like kills you, and you then never find your body. But yeah, I think there's a few times where people don't know what to do with a type specimen. They just call the police, take it away, maybe.
Yeah.
They just don't know what to do. They don't know where to take it, what to do with it. So I would just drive straight to Idaho State University, Dr. Revolve. That's the only person I trust.
There's a guy in Willow Creek who claims to have a body, but I've seen his video.
Prisoner.
Yeah, I've seen his. I think he's so full of shit.
Yeah, all his sexual stories of encounters. So many sexual encounters with Sasquatch.
I've seen clips of that. I didn't realize it's the same guy.
Oh yeah,
That's
same
so
guy,
funny.
same guy. Long stories of these dozens of these sexual encounters with Bigfoot. It's pretty funny.
Yeah,
He's just a comedian.
Yeah, I've seen a clip of that where it's like me after I take a chick home from the bar. It's like big Sasquatch, real stinky one. I already know the answer, but do you think there's any alien connection? I know. There's a lot of people that try to connect the two things. I'm like, man, you're reaching.
Yeah, the guy who recorded the Sierra Sounds and the Sierra Nevada Mountains in the 1970s. Have you heard it?
Mm.
So it's Al Berry and Ron Moore had went out into the mountains and they recorded these extraordinary vocal sequences of two different Sasquatches, most likely talking back and forth to each other, yipping, yapping. That's where the term samurai chatter came from. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or like big men grumbling back and forth. But in there's a ton of knocking and whistling too, like boom, boom, like trees cracking, breaking, and shit. Yeah, and linguistical experts have looked at and analyzed that, and yeah, the human voice cannot make some of those sounds in there. Especially you put lots of these vocalizations and sounds into spectral analysis graphs that visually show you the sound in a visual manner, and then you can compare other different animals and all these other different types of vocalization, and you can just roll out so many things.
So I'm telling you,
You can see if it was edited or not. Usually,
the thing I heard in Michigan did not sound like anything that was supposed to be there, according to one of the boys that, like, it sounded like a giant human. You know?
Yeah.
Fucking, do you know if anyone has observed these things using tools or wielding fire?
There's been a few stories of them coming into camp at nighttime and being curious about the fire and getting down there and feeling it, the warmth and that. I don't think they make fire. I do think other hominin species in the past or other human-like species do manipulate and use fire. I don't think it's only humans, but as far as the North American Sasquatch, I don't think so. Tools, absolutely. Freshwater oysters, clams, things on beaches, breaking them open with rocks, throwing rocks at people. I think that's a way of using tools, breaking stuff.
Projectile.
Right. Knocking on trees with wood. Throwing rocks at deer's heads at 40 miles an hour, killing them.
What about crafting?
Braiding each other's hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's been stories about them braiding horses' hair. Like, farmer comes out standing next to a horse. The horse is comfortable around it because it looks like a human, braiding its hair and picking out ticks and stuff. I've heard a few different stories from a few different people. I think a lot of those ones are probably fake, but I think there might be something to that. Sometimes people see them with, there's a few pieces of footage of, I think them having something in their hair or some rag on them that they found. Weird, of course. So, yeah, I think they use tools to an extent. Lots of times people hear car doors slamming in areas where there's no way there's a car door there. I think they might be experimenting with different densities or different objects to try to recreate sounds that they hear. So I think sometimes they can make that sound. like a car door or something, or sheet metal tearing. People have heard that in the most weirdest places. And
Do you think if they exist, that there could be like a government conspiracy to take these things out? It's just like we don't even want these things around. They're dangerous, you know?
yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that they're not dangerous because if they were out to get us, there'd be few of us left. I don't think we would exist as a species. We'd be totally annihilated. I do think just like with people, there's a few crazy Sasquatches out there, psycho serial killers. Just like with people, there's a few rare people out there that are like that. But when it comes to government conspiracies, I think there's certainly stories. I think they're just that. I do think there's a lot more conspiracy theories with logging companies hiring former special forces to go out there and eliminate Sasquatches in a certain area because they don't want logging to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly because they don't want the species to be discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And then lots of the old logging contracts. To be a logger, you in the contract, if you see a Sasquatch, you cannot tell another living soul, unless you want to be fired or criminally prosecuted or something, because it's in the contract,
It's in the contract. They mentioned Sasquatch.
Some of the logging contracts, yeah.
Wow.
Where if you work for us, if you see one, you cannot tell anybody else because we don't want people coming in here trying to shut down the logging operation.
Wow.
I think when they're discovered, there will be a temporary halt. I mean, they're already discovered. We're already aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
When they're included in taxonomy and in science, and they're included, then logging is going to come to a halt in North America. I think partially, mostly, for a small period of time, until we realize and do some studies and determine are they endangered or are they not. I think we're going to start by assuming that they're endangered. I think that's the safest thing to do it. Assume that they're endangered. But I think we're eventually going to realize that they just have a naturally low population. But such a low population to where they can still maintain a healthy breeding population. Until we start paving over everything and these big... Yeah, there's a bunch of conspiracy theories out there that land choppers and people shoot them all and take off. I don't know how true that stuff is. And another conspiracy theory is when Mount St. Helens erupted, there was a government helicopter that took a big mesh rope bag of like all these BigFoot bodies that they collected up after the mountain exploded, and they took them off and don't know where they went.
So this is what, before I lost my train, I just got it, is you're talking about how the logging companies are like, don't even talk about this thing, right? I believe for years...
She zoomed, peed, and came right back.
Okay. I believe for years that the logging companies are behind the forest fires.
Okay.
And do you know about how when the forest burn, they're allowed to log the forest? So like there could be forests that they can't log, right? It's like a protected environment or whatever. And then a wildfire will happen in that area, and then they're allowed to log all of the burnt wood. Because like, especially like the redwoods and shit, you get like these stumps that are so big that the stump doesn't burn, the tree does. Like the tree might even still be alive, but they're allowed to cut it down to burn it, or cut it down to log it.
Before it gets destroyed.
Yeah, because it burned, you know? And what I wonder is if they find out, like, oh, one of them was sighted in this territory, they just fucking light the fire, knowing that it's like two birds with one stone. You know, like you're taking out the Sasquatch, you fucking drive out the Sasquatches, and you get to log all that shit you didn't have access to.
I think they might die every once in a while from fires, but I think they can. I think it's more of driving them out of a certain area. I think they're still gonna live and escape.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I could see them using fires to drive them out.
Yeah, my cousin is a forest firefighter for the government, BLM land and stuff like that, and he just finished his second fire season in Oregon. He was a Marine, he retired, and then he was working up in South Dakota on wind turbines, and then now he's a forest firefighter. And yeah, he does he's super into chainsaws and stuff, but he does a lot of almost everything they do is controlled burns of certain areas and stuff. So yeah, I asked him to ask his like logging buddies in his group of like, have they ever seen anything or in a campfire, and everybody said no. Maybe someone did, but they just didn't want to say it, you know.
Yo, what's the most? I think you already said it. The most authentic, up close, personal story you've heard was the one that you said earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to a lady who went on a BFRO expedition, and she just had a classic sighting of a reddish one walk in front of her through an open meadow, and
Do you think these things have different races? Like it's one species with a whole bunch of races? Just like
yeah,
us?
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a few other species in there, not in North America. I mean, I think there's different regional variations and different genetic variations in different regions of like North America and South America. I think they're pretty much all the same species. I think this same species is also in Asia with another one, possibly like a relic Neanderthal or something like that, something really close to us. And then I think there's at least like 3 to 4 other hominid species. That's what Dr. John Napier proposed in his book, that there are 4 other human-like species. But that was shot down because they didn't judge that film based off of its own merits. They judged it based off of their own preconceptions and pre-notions of what they thought to be human evolution to be at the time. So they were just dismissing everything. Doesn't matter what evidence you think you have. There's no way, right? It just didn't fit their prevailing paradigm. But then if you look at Thomas Kuhn's book, you know, the characteristics of a scientific revolution, and sometimes it takes the entire passing of a generation for a new paradigm to take the majority of the community.
Yeah.
So I think as we see more younger scientists coming in, they're a lot more open-minded to the idea.
Are you familiar with the political theory of the fourth turning? You know what that is?
No.
There's a book. It's called The Fourth Turning,
Uh-huh.
and it's this. I don't remember the guy's name, but it's this political scientist guy who came up with this theory that there's this thing that he describes as the turning, right? And in America, we're coming up on the fourth turning, right? But that turning can be traced from America all the way back to like pre-Rome, right? And it's every 80 years, there's a generation in charge that dies off, and then humanity is kind of like, who's running this shit? And then there's a transferring of power of like the new generation that's going to hold on to power until they die off.
Mm-hmm.
And this phenomena can be traced from now all the way to pre-Rome of like all the different kingdoms and shit that have arose, right? And I feel like what you're describing in science is like the same thing of like this older generation that's stuck in their ways is going to kick the bucket, and then young people can pick up the torch and be like, no, this is legitimate science. You deny it all you want. Here it is.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, I feel like we're seeing a fourth turning, not only politically, but also in the realm of science. You know?
Makes sense.
Yo. Yeah, that's some fascinating shit that'll make you fucking real worried about the world.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's fucking going down right now.
Right.
Yup. But in science, it could be a good thing. Yup.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. Because being skeptical is a very good thing, but if you're too skeptical, you miss out on all these new scientific discoveries, and
Mm-hmm.
and you're not open-minded and things
I think we've completely like missed out on knowing about a completely lost civilization just because of that shit. Like with Egyptologists and shit, they're just like, this is how it happened. This is the way that it happened. Don't even talk about it happening any other way. Fuck you.
Right.
You know? And there's like so much shit that's like, oh, wait, that was wrong. Oh, wait, no, this also happened. You know? And like, you know about in, I want to say it was 2014 when ISIS sacked Mosul in Iraq. You know about this?
What's Mosul?
Mosul is like an ancient city in Iraq. It's
Okay.
still a city, but like, there's like a lot of antiquities were there and like ruins and stuff. And ISIS came through and it was like a big propaganda campaign. They fucking they came through with their fucking Toyotas, killed everybody, you know. And then they went through like all of these ancient ruins, and there's a museum there that had like the oldest antiquities and stuff. And ISIS went through there and like with jackhammers and shit and like destroyed all of these statues. And a lot of them were taken and are assumed to have been like sold to like Arab like trillionaires in the black market and shit like that. And there's a whole theory that the real reason that they did that was because like a lot of our heritage and story of like where the fuck humanity came from was right there, like locked in that museum. And they came, they destroyed a lot of it, and then the stuff that got taken was the stuff that like might change the historical narrative, and it's probably sitting in the Smithsonian now, you know, and that ISIS was really a CIA op that was all about doing shit like that. Mm-hmm. And but that all goes into the fourth turning of like we gotta fuck history so we can change the narrative at this like transitioning point when new people are going to take over. You know, like we have to change the narrative in time for what the future is going to be. You know, and I think the sacking of Mosul ties into that.
Interesting.
And but yeah, it all coincides with what you're describing in science. There is a shift happening, and that shift aligns with the boomers dying off and Gen Z stepping into place. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm glad you came, dude.
Yeah, that's great. Happy to be here.
Hell yeah. We should do this again. And yeah, get even deeper into it. I'd like to come to your dorm room and set this up and do one with like your whole fucking all your shit.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You'd be down with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when I get some new cats, I'll have like a ton of them.
Yeah, hell yeah. And if you want to go out in the field, all my shit's mobile. Like I would love
That'd be cool.
to, yeah, if we could do that before it gets like balls deep into winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I got a couple bear guns too, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I got a 357 revolver. We got a lever action too.
Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was good coming on with you.
Yeah, fuck yeah. All
Talking
right,
with you.
we're gonna end it here.